You know, for years, we've all been focused on governing files. Word docs, Excel sheets, the usual suspects. But in the age of AI and Copilot, that's kind of like putting a big fancy lock on your front door while leaving all the windows wide open. So today, we're going to go deep. We're diving into the architecture of Microsoft 365 to show you how to govern not just files, but the very meaning that AI creates from them.
Let's really unpack this, because this is a huge shift in how we need to think. The real risk isn't just about a file getting stolen anymore. It's about the AI-generated summaries, the little snippets, and all the context that lives completely unseen in what we're calling data shadows. This is a brand new attack surface, and frankly, traditional security just flies right over it.
So what exactly are these shadows? To get it, you have to look past the file system, past the SharePoint folders, and go straight into the engine room of Microsoft 365. This isn't about storage anymore. It's about an intelligent data layer that's powering literally everything. And that engine room is the M365 Substrate. The best way to think of it is as the hidden brain of M365. It's not just some dumb storage bucket, not by a long shot. It is actively processing your data, creating summaries, embeddings, and mapping out relationships. All of this is what gives Copilot its magic, but it's also what creates our massive new governance challenge.
Okay, so here's the fundamental split. On one side, you've got the world we all know, static, visible files that are governed by simple permissions. But on the other side, you have the Substrate's data shadows. They're dynamic, they're invisible, and they're always changing. See, a user doesn't need to download a file to leak its meaning anymore. They just have to ask the right question. That right there, that's the critical governance gap we absolutely have to close.
So how in the world do you govern this invisible layer? Well, the answer is Microsoft Purview, and specifically its adaptive protection capabilities. These are the tools built from the ground up to move beyond simple file permissions and start governing the actual context and meaning that's living inside the substrate.
This right here is the core philosophy. For decades, security has been a simple on-off switch. You're either in or you're out, allow or block. But adaptive protection? It works like a thermostat. It's constantly measuring user risk and then dialing the security controls up or down in real time to match that exact risk level. It's dynamic, not static.
So how does this actually play out in the real world? How does the system know when to, turn up the heat? It's a really cool process that ties user behavior directly to automated security controls. Let me just walk you through what that looks like. All right, picture this. You have an IT admin who's normally based in Montreal. Suddenly, they log in from a totally weird IP address and start asking Copilot about executive compensation. Boom. Purview's machine learning spots this anomaly. It's not just the location, it's the combination of weird behaviors. The user's risk level automatically jumps from minor to elevated. And instantly, a conditional access policy kicks in and blocks their session. Now get this, their permissions haven't changed at all, but their context has, and the system responded in seconds.
But the real power is what happens next. The moment that risk level changes, you can automatically trigger some seriously powerful actions. You can block access to apps completely, you can force a step up to phishing-resistant MFA, or you can cut off their ability to share any data. And the best part? This isn't someone in a SOC scrambling to react. These are automatic guardrails that adapt to the threat on their own.
Now, stopping bad actors in real time is only half the battle. Seriously. The other half is being proactive, and that means keeping the AI's memory clean. This is a concept we call semantic hygiene.
Here is a subtle but absolutely massive risk. What happens when you delete a source file, but the AI's summary of it, that data shadow, is still hanging around in the substrate, while Copilot starts giving answers based on an outdated truth? It starts to hallucinate, not because the AI is broken, but because its memory is just dirty. And this is where Purview's data lifecycle management becomes so incredibly important. Let's say you delete an old vacation policy document. A Purview retention policy can now trigger what we call a semantic purge. It doesn't just delete the file, no, it goes out and hunts down and erases all the associated data shadows from the substrate. This is how you make sure Copilot's knowledge base is perfectly aligned with your organization's current reality.
Okay, but listen, even if you have the most perfect Purview setup, you can still leave these gaping holes in your security. And it almost always comes down to fundamental architectural mistakes, especially with conditional access policies. So let's look at the common anti-patterns I see all the time that completely undermine all this great work.
Think of your M365 environment as a fortress. You can have the best tools, but simple policy mistakes can create massive backdoors. For instance, just trusting a device because it's compliant is a backdoor, because Copilot reads from the substrate in the cloud, not the local device. Using basic, push-based MFA is a backdoor, because a stolen session token gives an attacker a direct line to that data. And every single exclusion group you create, that's another unmonitored tunnel straight into your organization's brain. These are the new backdoors we have to close.
So, finally, this whole new reality of governing context, well, it requires new ways of measuring success. We have to move beyond the old metrics, like counting blocked viruses, and actually start measuring the health of the substrate itself. And here's a real architect-level takeaway for you. You can actually measure your semantic hygiene. Using tools like Microsoft Graph, you can query for what are called non-IPM, or non-interpersonal message items. These are basically the machine-generated data shadows. The goal here is to make a cleaner substrate an actual operational KPI, because at the end of the day, less digital clutter means faster, more accurate AI for everyone. This really is the bottom line. For the last 20 years, IT governance has been all about managing storage, disks, folders, files. From this point forward, it's about governing context, meaning relationships and risk. Purview is the tool that gets us there, but that strategic shift in thinking, that's on us.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about for your own organization. Are you still just building higher walls around your files? Or are you starting to manage the invisible, dynamic world of meaning where the real risks and the real opportunities now lie?